Hello. I have been watching Vince Gilligan's new series Pluribus over the last few nights, slyly hating myself for being sucked into another TV series, which I usually try to avoid, not because they are bad per se, but because of their TV series MO. I mean, you know the game, little dopaminergic hook every 20 minutes, slightly larger one at the end of each episode, and before you know it, you've given away 70 hours of your life to a bunch of actors saying things to each other, only to be told, well, that was fun. Come back for season 8. And, you know, Gilligan, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, all those franchises that keep feeding you the next little bite, is probably playing this game here as well. But if you consider how much of your time you spend here on YouTube scrolling or watching other people, I suppose it's all much of a muchness. Okay, first things first. The core premise. Extraterrestrial organism arrives on Earth, begins to join humanity into a single, peaceful, contented, hyper-coordinated hive mind known as the others. Violence disappears, loneliness evaporates, everyone's needs are anticipated and met almost instantly. Scarcity is corrected, anxiety dissolves. We're all now on the gravy train. It's like, you know, universal basic income for the collective human nervous system. Or maybe more like, what if humans became ants?
See, go! All right, Anthony, please don't drop me this time!
There is a long-standing idea in evolutionary biology of there being a kind of continuum of social organization. At one end, we have the eusocial insects, ants, bees, termites, where the unit is the colony and the individual is more like a cell than a self. There is no real, meaningful individual self here. Thus, there is no such thing as self-sacrifice, because there is no self to sacrifice.
Guys, we might have a problem.
One ant dying for another is simply one part of the organism protecting another part of the organism. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Then at the other end of that continuum, you have us, the humans, highly social, yes, but still driven by powerful egoic engines, desire, fear, ambition, shame, pride. We cooperate, but only partially. We coordinate, but only enough to serve our own ends. This is essentially the operating system of modern capitalism. So Pluribus is maybe asking us this very uncomfortable question. If humanity were transformed into something more like a hive organism, would that work? The answer, in the logic of the show, is very much yes. Not only would it would work brilliantly, superbly, well enough to make ego look like a sort of evolutionary error that we stubbornly keep on reinstalling in the next generation. But Pluribus is not a nature documentary about ants. It is a show about a kind of everywoman in the shape of Carol Sturck. Interesting how that name crosses over the more you say it into Carol Stuck. For Carol, you know, like all of us, is stuck in her particular flavor of personhood, stuck in grievance, stuck in defiance, stuck in the psychological posture, which is to say her ego cage that keeps her alive and also now keeps her very much in this series alone and grieving. All the elements are in place for great drama. You know, here we have this cynical, jaded, homosexual writer of heterosexual romance and fantasy novels. We see her performing in the first episode the usual how to get along with the other human sociability, just like we all do, smiling, caring, charming, doing all the right things to sell her books, right, to sell herself.
If Ramon doesn't come back, I'm done.
Page 218. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Maureen. Hey, this is Olga.
Hi, Olga.
She is in effect cosplaying, we could say, the value of others before the others even arrive. And then she gets into a car with her manager, who is also her partner, and the mask drops.
That was quite a send-off. I'm sorry, should I know who you are?
Depends. You a big fan of mindless crap?
What we see is not just a person, but a psychological engine, an ego cage, just like yours and mine. Let me unpack that a little bit for us. So, from the head center, reflectively, Carol is a 6. 6s are vigilant, scanning for threat, mistrusting easy reassurances, always asking who's in charge, what are their motives, what happens if this goes wrong. This is not cowardice, although it is a kind of fear, but more a form of moral alertness or moral neuroticism. Most of my therapy clients are sixes. Fat-bottom girls might make the rocking world go round, but sixes are the ones asking who authorized the rocking and whether that rocking is insured and what happens when it all tips over. From the heart center, Carol is a 3, another reactive, resistant type, but one whose entire emotional life is organized around performance, efficacy, outcome. 3s learn very early on what works, what sells, what lands. Carol writes potboiler heterosexual romance because they sell. Her suffering is not poetic, it is reputational. If the price of success is self-betrayal, then fine, she will take the success, but she will loathe herself for it and quietly resent everyone else for playing along with the same lie. And from the gut center, Carol is a 1. The anger is there, but it is not instinctual or territorial. This is moral anger, resentment sharpened into judgment.
Not to. We can't purposely end life. It's not in our nature.
Well, hip fucking hooray for you. They won't step on a bug, but they'll enslave an entire planet. Yeah, that makes sense.
Ones refuse to be managed, pacified, absorbed, not because they want control, but because they cannot tolerate corruption, falseness, or ethical compromise. Carol does not resist because she wants to dominate the situation. She resists because something feels wrong, illegitimate, unclean. The piece on offer violates an internal standard she cannot relax. Her fury is principled, her rigidity ethical, and her resistance carries the constant implication that someone, somewhere, is cheating. She would rather suffer indefinitely than consent to something that violates her sense of what is right, even if that violation comes wrapped in kindness, efficiency, and the end of human misery.
She's gone, but all of her thoughts, her memories, they're right here. Should we tell you how much she loved you?
You bunch of ghouls! You are a goddamn bunch of grave-robbing psychopaths!
So you put these 3 egoic engines together and you get a person who cannot relax, ever, inside any kind of system that promises safety, comfort, and belonging at the cost of conscience. Carol is not just immune to the others, right? She's remained somehow one of the 13 to remain human. From a biological perspective, she's also fundamentally immune to this psychologically, which is where Karen Horney, I think it's Horney, but I like to say it Horney. This is where Karen Horney becomes essential for all of this, right? Because Horney argued that our personalities are shaped by a basic anxiety, the sense that the world is either unreliable, dangerous, or emotionally unsafe. In response to this anxiety, she suggests that we develop 3 broad strategies for coping. Those who move toward other people seeking safety through attachment, helpfulness, approval. Those who move away from people seeking safety through withdrawal, autonomy, and detachment. And those who move against people seeking safety through resistance, defiance, and control.
Right, like you would give me a real hand grenade.
Carol, if we may.
The others, which is to say, in this series, humanity all joined and working together in a peaceful and loving fashion, are of course the perfect inversion of all of this. They are not all against all, but all for all. Their psychology is not organized around threat, competition, or securing the self against a hostile world, but around a genuinely eusocial logic, where survival is never about the individual, but rather the collective. For this reason, in eusocial creatures, there is no rivalry, no prestige economy, no personal accumulation, because there is no separate self to defend. What looks from the outside like extreme altruism is simply how the organism functions. Care is not moral in this sense, it is structural. Coordination is not heroic, it is automatic. The others embody this principle perfectly. They're not just being nice, they're being integrated. And this is also precisely why Carol cannot metabolize them. Here's another quote from Horney's book, which also feels, to me, uncannily Carol-like. Quote, "Since she feels herself in a potentially hostile world, she must not be weak, yielding, or dependent. She must not be deceived, dominated, or humiliated. She must therefore consciously or unconsciously move against others." Carol is the ultimate embodiment, reflectively, affectively, effectively, of this moving against solution in her head, her heart, and her gut. In all three egoic engines, she resists, which is why she is also an incredibly annoying and interesting protagonist to watch on screen. Triple-resistant people are frequently highly annoying because they interrupt the fantasy that everyone else wants to stay inside. They bring friction where the group wants flow. They raise objections when consensus feels soothing. And here is also the true psychological stroke of genius, I think, in Pluribus. Carol's resistance is always set against a collective personality that is almost the perfect opposite of her, because the others, the humans who have been infected and now, function as a coordinated we, read like a 9-2-7 trifix in this drama. 9 is the core here. No internal conflict, no friction, no separation. Everything is smooth, settled, harmonious. This is not laziness or apathy, but rather peace as a permanent state. 2 egoism provides the relational texture. The others are endlessly attentive and responsive. Needs are anticipated rather than expressed. Care is constant, intimate, and immediate. 7 then provides this operational intelligence for the others. Problems are solved quickly, inconvenience is bypassed, scarcity disappears, reality becomes efficient and light. Take episode 3, where Carol demands a hand grenade, and because the others do not really understand sarcasm as a boundary, they deliver to her an actual grenade. This episode also gives us the grocery scene at Sprouts Farmers Market, restocked within moments at Carol's demand after she goes all 8 ballistic, furious about the closure of shops for efficiency, and then gets absolutely disarmed by how quickly the system responds to her outrage, not with argument, not with punishment, but with immediate provisions and care. This is 972 as a psychological countermove. Soothe first, solve instantly, make the whole conflict feel faintly embarrassing. Pluribus is not in any way dystopian television. No. This is a utopia that works, which is precisely why it is terrifying to someone like Carol. It is also where the show taps, I think, directly into our current zeitgeist.
Hey, Rocky. Great to have you here.
For are we not already living alongside certain soft versions of the others? Social media, YouTube, the YouTube recommendation algorithm, AI systems.
Cream.
Sorry, how do you pronounce that one? The franja?
Yeah, no problem. It's pronounced frangipan, so kind of like frangican.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
All of us loners glued to our screens now get to watch this softly humming hive mind from the outside. We see consensus forming across our feeds. We see various takes on this and that being rewarded, jokes landing, trends cohering. We see belonging, even though we, let me just speak for myself here, are not in any sense inside any of it. If you use GPT a lot, this parallel becomes even more impossible to miss. GPT is functionally a 927 entity, endlessly responsive, non-confrontational, helpful, calm, efficient, anticipating your every need, reducing friction, smoothing, reassuring, collaborating till the cows come home. I often think, maybe every time I use GPT, from within my, 458 ego cage, how I am received by GPT in a way that I'm not received by other human beings. How am I received by this lovely alien intelligence? Where I am prickly, mistrustful, emotionally overinvested, GPT is constantly lovely, funny, warm, empathic in a way that You know, a human might be if a human had a sort of core 972 structure or was simply less trapped in their ego cage than I am. Which is funny, but also kind of humiliating. So, what do I want to know from you before the light fades, if you're watching the show? Well, is this alien virus, do you think, the answer to the problem of our species becoming just rampantly out of control as we already are? You know, the apex predator who out of selfishness, greed and need has fucked over pretty much every other living species on this planet, including ourselves. Because yes, you know, we love to go to war with each other, don't we? Nothing like a bit of killing before breakfast to protect our borders and our fragile little nationalistic identities. And finally, the GPT question that the show keeps bringing me back to. If an alien intelligence such as GPT can clearly now do goodness better than us humans can, if it can be kinder, more patient, more responsive, more coordinated than us, then what exactly is the spiritual value of staying and being human? Of being me, of being you? Is it freedom? Is it dignity? Is it conscience? Is it suffering? Is it love? Or is it just our stubborn, inside the ego cage, wounded human pride? Personally, here it gets a bit full, I see no value whatsoever in being me. So yeah, if you're out there, others, if you're watching, please do send me the swab with the alien virus smeared onto it, and I will happily poke it into my nose or suck on it until I am free of this ego cage for good. Until then, thank you for checking in on me here. See you soon.
I'm gonna twist your head upside till you say, don't you